Well, welcome back. Well, it is not exactly a crystal ball, but for some INOVA patients, pharmacogenomics is the next best thing. That's the study of how your genes affect how you'll react to certain drugs. NASA scientist Craig Dobson is living proof of how powerful that knowledge can be. Andrea Rohn has his story.
Maintaining your own individual health is a personal journey. At INOVA, the concept of personalized health means creating innovative therapies that enable their patients to live longer, healthier lives. It's a custom approach that puts the patient first by using genomics to create personalized treatment and targeted therapy plans for each individual.
So I'm in bonus time. Bonus time thanks to the advancement in medical science technology. This is a big deal.
NASA scientist Craig Dobson is outliving both his father and his grandfather. Both died from heart complications, so Craig's genetic makeup places him at higher risk of cardiovascular problems as well. After a heart attack just last year, doctors placed stents in the arteries of his heart to keep his blood flowing.
Before they emplaced that second stent, some of the staff came in and asked me if I would like to volunteer to take a test, look at my genetic makeup to see if I could be treated with Plavix.
Plavix is one of the most widely used heart medications, but is such a popular drug right for everyone?
He was in critical condition.
Dr. Tarani is an interventional cardiologist at INOVA Heart and Vascular Institute. His team treated Craig after the heart attack.
He had stents done in a staged manner. So when I initially met him when he came to the hospital, he had a critical blockage in one of his major arteries, and we fixed that in the LAD. And he also had blockage in another major artery, which I knew would have to be addressed.
Dr. Tarani knew that Craig would have to be on antiplatelets for a period of time.
And I wanted to see what would be the best way to tailor the therapy to his individual genetics. With regard to Plavix, it's a great drug. It's not the right drug for every patient.
Plavix is what we call a prodrug, meaning that it is not active when it first enters the body. It has to undergo further metabolism to become active and inhibit platelets. This is really important in preventing future heart attacks.
Before this test came about, we would give the patient the drug and assume and hope that it was working in the patient.
Dr. Paul Goebel is the Director of Cardiovascular Research at INOVA and oversees the MediMap Plavix test. A simple swab of saliva is placed into a medical device that rapidly determines whether the patient has the right genes to metabolize Plavix.
And this is that machine?
And this is the machine, that's right.
And within an hour you know whether this is the right drug for the right patient?
This test will tell us within an hour if the patient has a mutation in the gene that would predict a poor response to the drug.
What would be the consequences if they weren't the right patient?
The one consequence could be a clot formation. Now, clot formation in stents overall is a rare event, happens in several percentage of patients, but those patients we know who carry particular mutations in their genes have a much higher risk of developing a clot in their stent than patients who don't.
The test revealed that Craig is a good patient for Plavix. He's now in cardiac rehab 3 days a week and exercises regularly. Craig is glad to be a pioneer of this test and compares that planning and ingenuity to his engineering role at NASA, which requires precise calculations to place satellites and radar systems.
And that's exactly what they're doing with this test, is to tailor the medication to the specifics of the patient, to those specific conditions.
Well, welcome back. Dr. John Deacon's back with us as well, and we've now been joined by Dr. Paul Goebel. Welcome to both of you. Glad to chat. And Dr. Goebel, we should note, you're the person who pioneered this test to see whether or not Plavix actually could work on a certain person. Is it your thought that everybody who takes Plavix should have the test first?
Absolutely. Because of the reason, as mentioned, that this is a prodrug and its ability to work is really affected by the genetics of the patient. So one size fits all is not appropriate for this drug.
Now, it's especially important because this is a drug that is really widely prescribed. I mean, if you have a heart incident, many times you will be prescribed Plavix, right?
This is the most widely used antiplatelet drug in the world next to aspirin.
So do you think that this is something that can be expanded to look at other drugs as well? Is that already starting to happen, Doctor?
This is already in the works. The greatest body of evidence that we have right now with the drugs that we give to patients who have stents is with this drug Plavix. And
I guess it'll be also expanded to many other drugs in the future. Dr. Deacon, I'll ask you, what role do you see pharmacogenomics playing in improving patient outcomes to those who have heart disease or cancer?
You bet. There's now over 200 drugs that the FDA has said there is some genomic marker around it. So if we want to use those drugs to personalize their therapy, there is usually some testing being done. That's with cancer drugs, cardiology drugs, and other fields. As we're getting the technology down so we can return a result back in an hour, that's what's going to revolutionize the change in healthcare. Instead of waiting a month or 2 months for a test, if we get the result back in an hour, we can prescribe the right drug for that patient in their meeting with their physician.
In the future of this, very quickly, could we see a day when you're prescribing Tylenol or Advil based on whether or not somebody's genetics match up?
You bet. There actually are markers for drugs like Advil and those medications. So actually using those genomic markers to personalize therapy and everyone being tested early on in their lives is actually a way of doing that moving forward.
All right, great conversation, guys. We'll get back to you soon.